Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Gem Goddess podcast, where we talk about all things from tarot, astrology, manifestation, self-transformation, and so much more. Today's episode, we're going to be getting into spiritual beauty secrets, which I'm really excited to get into because I find this like a fascinating topic. And then I'm also going to be sharing with you my hair care routine. I get so many questions on how I've grown out my hair really long, like it's almost down to my butt. And in fact, I can't even keep up with how much it grows. I tend to have to cut it like pretty frequently. But regardless, I'm going to be sharing with you my hair care secrets because I didn't always have an easy time with growing my hair. In fact, I actually went through a huge struggle previously many years ago with trying to grow my hair because I just seemed to have really thin, damage-prone hair that just seemed to not really grow. So I've cultivated tons of different sort of research and my own learning across the way that has given me kind of insight on how to grow hair. And now I'm living proof that these different techniques that I'm going to be sharing with you today absolutely work. I will say that some of the things that I will mention might not apply to every single hair type because every single hair type has different needs, but there's going to at least be a few things that you can take away no matter what hair type you have that will help you grow your hair. So I'm also just going to add that in there. But this episode, I've actually recorded this episode. This is my fourth time recording this episode. This episode was supposed to come out like almost a month ago now. This was going to be my second podcast episode. But the reason why I've re-recorded it multiple times now is because when I talk about spiritual beauty secrets, it can sometimes be a touchy subject when we talk about things that are about beauty. And the reason being is because sometimes we can become perfectionists with things. And this episode is not meant to encourage being perfect because the interesting secret is that you already are perfect. And the tools that I share with you today are meant to be used from a place of balance and internal self-love, not from a place of trying to be perfect. So I'm just going to add that little disclaimer. Anything that I mentioned today, I really want to encourage everybody to approach all of these different tactics from a balanced place, from a place of self-love. All of these things are meant to encourage self-love. And that's a huge aspect behind the spiritual side of beauty is actually balanced self-love. Because the interesting paradox about beauty is that, when we're trying to become too perfectionist or we're noticing all our flaws, and maybe we're noticing because we're like, oh, I want to change this or I want to change that because that's going to make me more beautiful or that's going to enhance me this way. The interesting paradox is sometimes when we're being a little bit too nitpicky, it can actually have a detriment on ourselves and on our internal and external beauty because the way our body responds to our internal language and our internal thoughts has an effect on our external world. There's a really famous axiom that was created by the ancient Thoth, if you've heard of Thoth or Thoth, however you want to pronounce his name. There's a famous axiom, and you've probably heard it before. It's as above, so below, and as within, so without. So actually the interesting paradox is when we're trying so hard to be more beautiful, or we're trying so hard to change ourselves or enhance ourselves, it's usually stemming from a place of noticing where our flaws are. But upon noticing our flaws, it will actually enhance our flaws. And it will also actually create internal chemistry that can be a little bit deteriorating because when you're stressing about the way that you look, or you're over obsessing about the way that you look, that's creating internal chemistry and enhancing and creating more cortisol in your body, which is a deteriorating hormone. It deteriorates your body much faster. Whereas when you're feeling emotions such as love, self-love, peace, tranquility, rejuvenation, joy, all of those positive emotions, those evoke positive hormones within your body, which can actually lengthen your telomeres, which your telomeres are, they kind of define how old you are in your biological age. And there used to be science that said that your telomeres would always indicate your actual biological age. But we've actually found that certain lifestyle choices and certain ways of living will either deteriorate your telomeres much faster or lengthen your telomeres, which means that you almost kind of reverse or even slow down the aging process or the deterioration process, which is actually quite interesting and fascinating. So that's the interesting paradox of beauty. When you're being overly obsessive or when you're being too nitpicky about yourself or noticing all your flaws. Sometimes we're like, oh, it's good that I'm noticing them because then I can enhance them, change them, do this, do that. And while there's a balance with all of this, there's also that interesting paradox where the more that we begin to love ourselves, the more we'll actually enhance all the positive qualities about ourselves, and the more that you'll naturally begin to glow from the inside out. What I've always noticed is that, when you go on a self-transformation journey, and you look at your before and after, let's say you take a before picture before going on self-development work and really starting to love yourself and cultivating more internal love and cultivating more internal confidence. Before going on that journey, if you take a photo of yourself and then you go on that journey and then you look at your aftermath, and you take a photo of yourself afterwards and you've really done that internal work, that internal healing, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, wow, I almost look like a different person. Yes, you're going to look the same in terms of, there's going to be similar qualities about yourself where you can still recognize yourself, but you're just going to look very different. And I've noticed that within my own personal journey of going along internal healing and then being able to see externally wow, that actually had a huge impact on me, on my external self. And I will also add in here, because sometimes I get this comment, I have not had fillers and I have not had injections. I haven't done any of that. And so when we're talking about spiritual transformation and noticing it externally, you really do notice it externally. When I look on old photos of myself, I can really see the difference of how my old internal emotional state was really actually showing itself externally, and how when I went on a healing journey for myself, it really transformed the way that I looked. And this is something where therapists and psychologists have also noticed this interesting phenomenon, that when people heal themselves internally, it shifts their external appearance. And so, for example, what psychologists and therapists have noticed is that, let's say somebody comes to them and they're dealing with maybe a lot of anger issues. They might have different aspects or features on their body, within their body language, within their facial structure and posture that expresses the internal anger that they are holding onto and currently repressing. So whatever emotions that you're holding on to, unhealed emotions from your past, or, other things that you've gone through that maybe you just haven't let go of. Interestingly enough, your body will actually hold those emotions and they'll be expressed through your body unconsciously. So you're unconsciously going to hold yourself in different postures that reflect the way that you feel internally. So again, what they've noticed is that, patients that maybe, are dealing with a lot of anger in their life, they come in with body language that expresses a bit more of an angry or a bit more of an aggressive posture because of the emotion that they are internally holding onto. And they'll also notice that within their face. If you think about a more angry face, let's say you're holding onto the emotion of anger, you're going to clench your jaw a lot more. Your eyebrows are going to become more stern, more sharp, more closer together. Your eyes are going to be a little bit more piercing. And so, once you start to heal this, and this can sometimes be subtle, by the way. Sometimes we don't even notice that we're holding on to old emotions and that it's actually expressing itself through our body unconsciously, but it's usually in subtle ways. And somebody with a really keen eye can sometimes notice these things. But anyway, back to the point. Therapists and psychologists, what they've noticed is that as they go through therapy, and as they heal that emotion, as they release that emotion, it shifts the way they hold themselves. It also shifts their facial posture. And so they begin to soften up. They begin to soften up within their body language. They begin to soften up within their face. And all of a sudden they look much more peaceful, much more approachable, much more easygoing. And it shifts the way that they appear. And so again, when I mentioned this, I don't want anybody to start getting obsessive with I need to heal myself, all this in order to be perfect. The whole point of this is not to be perfect. And whatever it is that you currently need to heal, they've even noticed this, for example, with people with a lack of confidence, or when they don't feel worthy, or they tend to be people pleasers. They tend to have a much more softer appearance, much more small. They tend to make themselves really small within their body language, within their body posture. And as they go through healing that, they become more assertive. Their shoulders kind of lean back more. Their chest is more open and out. And they have more wide and open eyes. And their expression is much more, again, just open rather than closed and small. So again, whatever emotions that you maybe need to heal or work on, as you heal them, as you work on them, it will actually shift your external appearance. And this is something that I find really cool. But again, I don't want to encourage anybody to become obsessive with this, because when we begin getting obsessive with these things, we're actually doing the opposite of healing. When we go too far into needing to heal everything, or becoming too aware of like, oh, I have this flaw, or oh, I didn't heal this from my past, or oh, I have this. When we become too obsessive with these things, we're actually doing the opposite effect, and we're creating more stress. We're creating more imbalance within ourselves, which again reflects externally. So the whole point of me sharing any of these things with you is simply, the secret is being your happiest now, finding ways to be your happiest now, finding ways to release and forgive your past, which is so healing and so beautiful. And it sets you free. The whole point of healing is like, it sets you free. Sometimes we don't want to forgive our past because we think that holding on to it is like a way of making sure that our past like gets its karma or something, or it comes from the ego of not wanting to let it go, because it's like, oh, if I let it go, then it means that I'm okay with it. And that's not necessarily the case. It's like, we can recognize that our past maybe wasn't correct, or that we didn't deserve to go through that, but we can also forgive it and let it go, because then we're able to set ourselves free. And in doing so, again, we rebalance ourselves, we heal ourselves, and as within, so without. And as we hold on to our past, it manifests externally, not only just within, being hard on our body to carry those old emotions, but also within, we continue to manifest scenarios that reflect that unhealed pain. And so when we can begin to just heal it, we're able to manifest more happiness externally. And we're also able to do a favor for our body and to feel better within ourselves. And there's no point in being perfect, because a lot of us also think like, oh, in order for me to be confident, I need to be perfect, or I need to fix this about myself, I need to fix that about myself. And what's interesting is that confidence doesn't stem from being perfect. Confidence doesn't stem from looking at yourself and being like, I finally love everything about myself. It doesn't necessarily come from that place. Confidence comes from when you're able to love and accept yourself for who you are, even right now. The most confident people in the world are not the ones that are perfect or have found a way to become perfect. The most confident people in the world are the ones that recognize like, oh yeah, I still have this unhealed aspect. I still have maybe this, but I'm okay with it. And I'm okay because I know that I am on my healing journey, but I'm also loving myself in the process. And I also know that I am just as worthy of, happiness and joy. I'm just as worthy. There's no reason for you to not be worthy of that right now. Whatever flaws that you have, everyone in the world has flaws. Everyone in the world has a past. Everyone in the world has made mistakes. And it does not take away from your worthiness. There's this amazing kind of example that I heard once about worthiness that I absolutely love. And it was, somebody takes $100 bill and they say, okay, how much is this worth? It's worth $100. But then let's crinkle up that $100. Let's spit on it. Let's stomp on it. Let's run it through the mud a little bit. And then let's take it back out. How much is it worth now? Well, the $100 bill is still worth $100. It hasn't lost its worth. It's literally still worth $100. Yeah, it got dirt on it. Yeah, it got crinkled up, but you can uncrinkle it. You can dust the dirt off. You can rinse money. Money's rinsable now. It's not necessarily made out of paper anymore. But anyway, regardless, you are worthy. Just because you've gone through a past, just because you've gone through whatever, just because you have certain flaws that you might, not like very much, it doesn't make you any less worthy. And the most confident people, the people that garner confidence, are not the ones that have fixed themselves. They are the ones that recognize that they are worthy regardless, and that they can love themselves regardless. That's literally the secret, is when you can learn how to love yourself regardless of your past, regardless of, your current flaws, and you just be at peace with yourself. And I'm at this state of my life where I know that I still have things to work on. I still have things where I'm improving myself. In fact, I love self-improvement so much. It's like one of my biggest passions, because it correlates with manifestation so much. It correlates within the tarot so much. And all these things. I just absolutely love, becoming a higher, greater, better version of myself, but I don't do it in a way where I'm obsessive with it. Nor do I do it in a way where I'm like, oh, I don't like who I am now and I need to fix myself and I'm broken. No, I approach it from now a place where I'm like, I just love working on myself because I just love improving myself. But I love who I am right now. And yeah, I have flaws, but I'm just here in the present and I know that I'm perfect in the present. But I also know that I love working on myself too because it makes me feel better. And I love being able to reach new levels of loving myself. I love to reach new levels of healing and becoming at peace and learning and growing more. I love that. And I feel like that's a balanced way to approach when we're talking about healing yourself and also, working on beauty and becoming more beautiful from the inside out. It really comes down to loving yourself in the present moment and being confident in who you are in the present moment and not taking things too far, not becoming obsessive with healing yourself, not becoming obsessive with looking perfect, but simply just being like, you know what, maybe I enjoy looking nice and I can enjoy looking nice and I can start to speak to myself more kindly. I love the practice of looking at myself in the mirror and speaking kind, nice, beautiful words to myself. Because as we know within science as well, we've done experiments where we've recognized that our words have power. For example, if you talk to a plant and you say positive words, that plant is going to flourish. That plant is going to grow more quickly and it's going to be more abundant and lively. But for example, if you start to say negative words to a plant, it will actually begin to deteriorate. It will wilt. It won't absorb as many nutrients and it won't be as lively. It'll start to wear down. We've also done this experiment with water where we've seen how water has been affected by words and it shifts its crystalline structure. Dr. Emoto has done experiments with water and then freezing water after speaking words to it or even pasting words on the water and seeing how it would transform the water. Negative words had this dissonant look of their crystalline structure. It didn't look nice. It didn't look cohesive. Whereas when you froze the water after being connected to words of gratitude or love or peace or joy, they had these beautiful crystalline structures and we're made up of mostly water. So think about how much your words and your thoughts, which everything has vibration, your words, your thoughts, all of it, your emotions all have vibration. And we're made up of mostly water. So think about how your internal sort of dialogue and emotions are affecting you and your body if your words can have that much of an effect on something external from you, such as a plant. So think about how much your words and your internal dialogue have an effect on you. And again, this is not meant to scare you and be like, oh no, I need to somehow clear my mind and be perfect. I still have negative thoughts. Everyone is going to have negative thoughts throughout the day. None of us are going to have this perfect mind that is just 100% perfect all the time. And that's not even the point of this. The point of this is to become more conscious and recognize, like, am I speaking to myself negatively right now? Am I saying negative things to myself? And if so, it's about being conscious, recognizing that, letting it go, using the awareness, and then just saying, let me speak something kind to myself. Let me start to shift this. Let me start to say something different and new. And even if it feels strange at first, like even if you're like, you notice that you're like, oh, my hair isn't what I want it to be. I don't like the way my hair looks, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, you catch yourself saying that. It's not about, being negative. You can instead just say like, I have luscious, gorgeous hair. And even if you don't believe it in the moment, even if it feels unnatural because you're like, I currently have the belief that I don't have good hair and all of a sudden I'm telling myself I do have good hair and I don't quite believe it. It feels weird. It feels unnatural. It's going to feel weird and unnatural at first. That's totally okay. It's just because it contradicts your current belief system. But the more you begin to say something, the more you begin to repeat something continuously, even when it feels weird, strange, and uncomfortable, if you continue to repeat, I love myself and I love my hair and my hair grows beautifully and my hair grows strong and long and my skin is beautiful and my skin is clear and I love my skin. The more that you begin to say those things, the more that you're going to begin to believe it, because the more that you repeat something, it eventually becomes a belief. And the only reason why you have certain belief systems right now is because you've repeated something to yourself long enough for it to become a current belief. But you can break it down by switching your internal dialogue, by using awareness. Again, not being perfectionist with it, but just using awareness. Just using simple awareness, loving yourself, being at peace with yourself and saying, you know what? I'm going to change my story. I'm going to start to love myself. I'm going to start to say nice, kind things to myself that support what I desire to create. And one thing that this is going to be a perfect segue into is talking about how this correlates specifically to like your external appearance, and how your belief systems and what you tell yourself will actually have a direct impact on, your external appearance, such as growing your hair, because this is something that I've actually realized. But just to recap the end of the spiritual beauty secrets, your spiritual beauty secrets of today's episode are your internal well-being, your internal dialogue, your internal emotions, all manifest externally. And when you can begin healing and forgiving your past and healing internal emotions, it will shift the way that you appear externally. It will literally shift the way you hold yourself within your body language, within your facial posture, and it will shift yourself over time. Because another interesting thing is like the way you hold yourself in your facial posture over some time, like you can notice older people, the emotions that they've regularly felt more predominantly based on where they get wrinkles in their face, right? And you can see people that have clearly been really happy through their lives, or people that have really held on to a lot of anger, depending on where they get those particular predominant wrinkles and things like that. So when you begin to heal your emotions and feel the way that you desire to feel, it's also going to shift the muscles that you use in your face. It's going to shift for example, your cheekbones becoming predominant because of smiling so much, or things like that. So to recap again, your emotions have an effect on your external appearance, and which I find fascinating. I find it amazing because as you begin to heal yourself, it's so fun to watch how your external appearance, it subtly changes. You still look like you, but it will subtly change in a way where you're just going to glow more. You are going to glow from within, and the beautiful aspects of you are literally just going to enhance even more. And so I just find that really fascinating and really beautiful. So that is the recap. Speak to yourself more kindly, catch yourself when you're thinking negative, and just think more positively and begin to just heal and let go and release of past emotions and past experiences that you might be holding on to, because as you do that, it literally has an effect on your external world, the way you carry yourself, the way you hold yourself, and all those things. But your beliefs literally have a direct impact on your external appearance as well. And one thing that I noticed is because I didn't always have great hair. In fact, back when I was in high school, I really wanted to grow out my hair really long, but I actually struggled with growing out my hair. And I noticed that I would always get a lot of breakage. I could never grow it. And I had this friend that her hair would grow like a weed and she could not keep up with cutting it. And I thought, oh, what a good problem to have. I wish I could have your problem. But then because I was into manifestation already and I was into all these different things, I caught myself with this interesting belief that my hair doesn't grow and it always just breaks and I can never get it to grow the way I want it to. I caught myself with that belief and I told myself, what if I start telling myself a new belief? What if I started telling myself the belief that I did have really long hair and that it does grow really fast, just like my friend? I wonder how that's going to change things in my reality. And what I noticed is that upon looking back, one of the secrets to growing out your hair really long is getting regular trims, which might not make a lot of sense, but we're going to get into why that is. However, when my hair wasn't growing very long, I was really resistant to ever getting it cut because I thought, oh, if I get it cut, I'm just making reverse progress. My hair is going to be even shorter. And because it doesn't grow, I'm going to run into more problems. And I'm just going to be left with shorter hair if I cut it. But my friend whose hair grew like a weed, and she's just like, oh, I can't even keep up with cutting it. I have to cut it all the time and it just grows so fast. And I thought, what is your secret? And she's like, I don't know. Maybe it's the cutting it. I don't know. And I was so resistant to cutting my hair because of the belief that my hair doesn't grow. But when I started shifting the belief that my hair does grow and it grows really fast and I can't keep up with it, I then became open to actually cutting my hair, because what would I do if I had the belief system that I couldn't keep up with cutting my hair? Of course, I would go out and cut my hair. So I cut my hair. All of a sudden, my hair starts growing much healthier, much better, much faster. And in fact, it started becoming really healthy. And all of a sudden, me saying that belief opened me up to actually taking the action that I needed. Because whenever we have a belief that doesn't serve us, or if we have a belief like I have bad skin or my hair doesn't grow, or, whatever your current belief system is, it will unconsciously become a self-fulfilling prophecy in your reality because of the way that you're going to be guided to take action. Of course, if you have the belief system that your hair doesn't grow, you're going to be really resistant to cutting your hair, which will actually help your hair grow, but you're going to be really resistant to it because you already have the belief system that your hair doesn't grow. Therefore, you're probably not going to be doing the things that you actually need to do to create the hair growth that you're desiring, right? And so that's what I noticed, is that right when I shifted my belief systems, it actually led me to taking the action that I needed to in order to get the hair that I wanted. And it shifted my whole hair story. Now I have really great hair that grows like a weed. It's thick, it's great, it's long, and it's really healthy. So your belief systems actually do play a part in what manifests externally for you. So when you begin to tell yourself a new story, such as my hair grows long and strong, even if you don't see it in your reality yet, simply programming your mind with that belief system by repeating it, regardless of your external reality, regardless of how resistant you feel to it, if the more you begin to program your mind with the belief systems that reflect the reality you desire, it will unconsciously shift you to taking the action to create the reality that you are programming into your mind through the new belief systems. So that's a really interesting, fascinating thing. And so getting into actual hair care tips and all those things that I promised that I would add into this episode is, first off, when you are wanting to grow out your hair and grow it really healthy, one of the points that I brought up is you need to cut it really frequently. The reason being is because if you have really unhealthy hair, the ends of your hair are going to be really prone to breakage, and it's going to be really damage prone. And the more breakage that you have, you're not going to notice your hair growing in its length because of the fact that it's just breaking off and flying away. And that's what my issue was. That's why when you cut your hair, it actually technically makes your hair grow faster. It doesn't make it grow faster from the actual roots, but you'll notice the hair growth within the length of it because your hair is actually healthy enough to not just break off and fly away. So you're actually going to notice the length coming out. And what I recommend is cutting your hair every 3 to 4 months, depending on how damaged it is, depending on how often you maybe color it or bleach it or things like that. If you're coloring it, bleaching it, styling it more frequently, you might need to cut it more closer to the 3-month mark, maybe every 2 months, depending on how much you're doing to it. But the healthier that you can keep your hair, the longer you can go between cutting it because it's obviously not going to get as damaged. But I cut my hair every 3 to 4 months. And that's what helped me grow my hair a lot. Another thing that will help you grow your hair is to cut it all at one length. The more layers that you put into your hair, the thinner the ends of your hair are going to be. And the ends of your hair is, of course, where we notice the length of our hair, right? And the thinner that your hair is at the ends, the more damage prone it's going to be because it's not as thick. It doesn't have as much protection from all the other hair. And so if you're really wanting to grow out your hair really long, another secret is to cut it all one length. Don't put any layers in your hair. Just cut it all one length and do that long enough to where you can grow your hair to the length that you actually want it to be. And then you can re-add the layers later on. But the hair growth, it can take some time. I've been growing out my hair for 8 years now. And when I started my hair growth journey 8 years ago, I actually had to cut it all the way up to about my chin. It was like my chin-ish height. The reason being is I made a really stupid mistake with coloring my hair and then getting tape and extensions. Don't ever get them. They're the worst possible thing. It broke and damaged my hair so much that I needed to cut it up to my chin. But then I went on this hair growth journey, and then it's taken me 8 years, and now my hair is down to my butt. And okay, just had to restart my camera because it cut out there. But anyway, now my hair is the length that I actually want it to be. So now we're good to go. The other hair care secrets is brushing your hair before you shower. The reason for this is because we naturally get knots in our hair. And if you're not brushing it before you shower, as you shower, those knots are going to get more knotted, and they will get harder to brush out later on. So always brush your hair before you shower. That way you just have really smooth, really great hair prior. I personally do brush my hair after I shower. You're technically not supposed to, but I use something called a wet brush, and I brush it from the bottom up. I do not start from the top because then you're just going to create a lot of knots and you do create breakage. So I'm not recommending that you brush your hair after you shower. It's just something that I personally do because for me, I just like it to dry when it's like, brushed through and all of that. But if you are going to brush your hair after you shower, or even if, no matter when you're brushing your hair, brush it from the bottom up to avoid creating knots. If you brush it from the top down, you are literally taking those knots and making them bigger and bigger and bigger, and they get harder and harder to brush out, and it creates more breakage. So brush your hair from the bottom, start from the bottom, be really gentle, and go all the way up. Also, minimal heat styling is something that obviously helps because heat creates damage in your hair. And when you're wanting your hair to grow, the whole key to it is creating the least amount of damage as possible and rehydrating your hair. So minimal heat styling, what I did is I only really styled my hair or heat styled it if there was something important going on, such as me filming a video or me going to an event. But other than that, I would just let it air dry and just not even style it. I would just like kind of either put it up in a bun or just let it be its natural self. And that is one great hack to getting your hair to grow, is if you are willing to just not heat style it, or when you do heat style it, if you are going to heat style it, don't wash your hair frequently so that you can actually hold that style for, a few days and you're not heat styling it every single day. So don't wash your hair frequently. And then again, if you are heat styling it, just try to do your best to like not heat style it every day. Go longer between washes is going to help you out a lot, because that's also going to help hydrate your hair, or keep your hair hydrated, because the more often you wash it, the more you strip it of its natural oils, which will also contribute to hair damage over time. So the longer you can go between washes, the better. I personally wash my hair 1 to 2 times a week, which I know sounds like kind of crazy, but I use dry shampoo in between that in order to maintain its health, because you don't want to dry out the ends. You're only putting dry shampoo on your roots, which are naturally going to be much more healthy already anyway. And even though dry shampoo does tend to be a little bit damaging, you're not putting it on the ends of your hair, which is going to, again, be okay, because that means that you're still going to be able to have healthy ends of your hair and you're not damaging the ends any further. So another thing that you can do is do a hair mask, especially if you color your hair. This can rehydrate your hair and be really good. So when you do take a shower, doing a hair mask like once a week or every 2 weeks is going to be really helpful. The least amount that you can color your hair, or even if you stop coloring it altogether, it's just going to grow its best. I personally have not colored my hair in over 8 years now, which is crazy. I used to color my hair a lot. And whilst I know that you can still grow your hair amazingly, even if you bleach your hair, because I used to grow my hair really great even when I did bleach it, you just need to care for it a lot more, rehydrate it a lot more, heat style it less, do all of that. But if you want your hair to grow its fastest, if you stop coloring it, it will also help, because you're going to have healthier hair. Another thing, anytime it's windy or anything like that, put your hair up, protect it from getting knots, protect it from damage at all times. And then another thing is fish oils really help hydrate your hair from the inside out. So as your hair is growing, if you really want it to be healthy and shiny, eating fish or taking a fish oil supplement can be really helpful. If you do not eat meat, another thing that you can do is like eating healthy fats, such as avocados or peanut butter. Those things have really healthy fats within them, even omegas, which really help with your hair growth and your hair health as well. And also hydrating, drinking water so that you have hydrated hair. You can't rehydrate your hair after it's already grown, but the more healthy that you can be internally, when your hair grows, it will naturally create healthier hair, because you're healthier from within already. And the more hydrated you are, the more healthy hair that you're going to create and grow. So again, you cannot sort of really, your diet isn't going to change your hair texture as it already is, but you can shift some of your hair texture by shifting your diet and your health internally right now, and that will shift the new growth that you get from here on out. So that's another thing that is really helpful. In terms of products that I use, I really switch between products a lot. Like I really just use shampoo and conditioner. I used to use hair masks, which I used to either use coconut oil or castor oil as a hair mask, or I would buy just a regular, drugstore hair mask. You can use any of those. I'm not really picky on brands. Any brands that say like, oh, this is going to help your hair grow, or like this is going to change your life and your hair growth, you really don't need any of that. I've never really used any of that myself. You really just need to protect your hair from damage. Like these are all the keys. Protect your hair from damage. trim it regularly so that you can have healthy ends. On average, hair grows about 1 inch a month. So if you're cutting it every 3 to 4 months, you're really only taking off, and I only ever cut my hair like 1 inch, by the way. I only really ever cut it like 1 inch or sometimes 2 inches, depending on how bad the damage was. Your initial cut that you get, if you have really damaged hair, you want to cut it all one length, and you want to make sure that your ends are healthy, because if your ends are healthy, you're going to notice the length in your hair growth. So your first haircut, maybe you need to take a little bit more off, but then keeping up with regular trims of cutting about 1 to 2 inches every 3 to 4 months is going to be what keeps and maintains the health of your hair so that you can notice the growth of your hair. It does take some time. You do have to be patient, but as you keep your hair healthy, you just keep your hair healthy, maintain internal good health within your body, and then also getting those regular trims, your hair is going to grow, and it's going to grow fantastically. So those are the different beauty hacks that I have for today's episode, which is all about spiritual beauty. But remember, just stay balanced with it. The whole point of it is to just love yourself. And then also my hair care tips that we added here as well. So that is all for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me for all of this. If you have any more suggestions or anything else that you'd like to leave down below, any comments down below, any feedback or anything like that, I would love to hear that. Of course, I can read the comments on YouTube. So if you go to the YouTube video, I can read your comments, or if you just want to DM me on Instagram or anything like that with future episode ideas or other things that you'd like to hear about, I would love to hear that. And thank you again so much for joining me here. And until next time, bye.